Good morning, everybody. It's Kula Dula from RawStocks. We have another edition of our pre-market prep. Yeah, I know it's been a minute, but we're back. We had a few things going on here at the Kula house, the Kula Casa, but we're back at it. So we're going to have all of your dealer data levels on the S&P, on NVDA, and on Tesla. So we'll get into those right after this. Shout out to our sponsors, Black Box Stocks and GammaEdge. Without those guys, we would not be able to provide this to you every single day for free. So shout out to them. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay. So man, yesterday we saw a bit of a drop, right? A bit of a drop. And some people are saying, you know, this looks like a big bull flag. I'm not disagreeing. Okay. I'm not disagreeing. I think this looks very much like you would see a potential bull flag. You guys know what I love to use for distribution, and that is the daily 4, which is the yellow here. So the last 3 days, we've seen a close underneath that daily 4. We've seen it act as resistance. And now we're seeing a big sell down followed by a after hour sell down. So currently, if we take a look at like SPY here, you can see that we're actually pushed down even further here. So yes, we're coming into that daily 50, okay, which is the green line here. That is our daily 50, and then we have our daily 200 all the way back down here towards that 6126 area. But will we make it there? I don't know about that. Let's talk about what we're seeing in the data. Okay, so if you're a follower on me on X, you're going to know that I've talked about shifting to a standpoint where under 6,600 you should be virtually worried, right? Well, we're approaching that area, but let's pull up the data. Okay, so we have seen major speculation to the upside. Let me take a drink real quick. Sorry, y'all. I got something in my throat. We've seen major speculation to the upside here. We've seen 6,900, 7,000 start to explode over the last couple weeks. Even with some of this, you know, chop / pullback, we still seen that kind of explode. But what I covered on my X, if you followed me, is virtually our 6,600 level right down here. Okay, this used to be at roughly 71 million. Somewhere in that range. Okay. And we've seen, you know, even 6,500 had a huge amount, but as you can see, the net delta is starting to shift on these deep in the money positions. And what that tells us is that most of the likely we've seen a shift in sentiment, and also people are taking profits, taking money off the tables, and they're looking for a potential pullback. We favor more of a pullback than we do anything else when we start to see all that shrink like we have, okay? We are in a put-dominated gamma condition, which means the bears are in the driver's seat, okay? Right now, our spot price virtually around the 6,700 area. Yeah, right around that 6,600 area or 6,700 area. And you can tell there's a lot of overhead pressure and where we're at in the full complex here. When we dive into today, you can see a key pivot point here is at 6,700. Like I said, currently we are at we'll be right around 6,700, right in that range, right, as we open, most likely. And what can happen off of that point? Well, based on the data being where it's at, right, and we know the floor is essentially built here at 6,700, this thing could go flying off the rails here and look to make this push off of 6,700, all right? So What I'm saying is some large sell candle like this, and then you see a big pullback to the upside. All right. 67.80s to the upside here. I painted this thing as 67.50 because that's the data that I find more relevant. Okay. And what do I mean more relevant? I think if we break through here, we could go storming towards way past the 67.80 level that we have painted here. I think this would likely go more towards 6,800 if we do break through 67.50. Okay. Now, our low side is 6650, 6700. Like I said, the pivot, virtually it's saying the floor here, but the data I pulled earlier had 6650. I'm going to go ahead and use 6700 as a pivot based on the data we're doing today. So that's my interpretation. That 6650, if you look down here, tremendous amount of puts sold here, right? Well, assuming sold, we're in a positive net delta here. So we're going to call that the floor, right? That's going to be a floor until proven otherwise. So this is kind of what we're looking at right here on the day. So above 6,700, sure, get long. You might see the sense of something like let me restart this one. We see a push off 6,700 real strong at the open towards 6,750. And that will be, like I said, a key pivot point for us to potentially start squeezing towards 6,800. Or we see this thing kind of ping pong around this area and maybe even break below to make us a drive towards 6650 and then try to come back up towards that 6,700 area. If there's enough bears that start stacking on this, do not be surprised to see us push down towards 6,600 today. But that would likely be in the event that we see us open up near 6,700 and sell, revisit 6,700, and then see another sell again. Okay. This one right here would be the one that you'd really be interested in letting it ride. All right. Your first one here, probably locking up profits near that 6,600 area. Excuse me, 6,650. But if you're looking for the full ride, full lotto, I'd be watching this secondary short here for a move to break down towards 6,600 if the data expands below 6,650 and we really start to see pricing press down below there. Okay. This is support. You need to know that. But keep an eye on those potential plays here. All right. If we come out early out the gate here, I really like this short for a 6,700 visit or even a 6,650 visit. I wouldn't get crazy with it, as you know, based on the data we see in, this could floor us and then drive us all the way up here. So if you really see a push over 6,750, just go ahead and cut it, right? Go ahead and cut it. Don't let it go. If it pops back below 6,750, then sure, open a new one. But I'd take the 10%, hits, 5% hits here, and look for this thing to roll back over into this range if it pops below it again, or if you see a solid sell candle drives you under that level. All right, let's take a look at NVIDIA. And I know my chart on here is going to be a little bit old. We talked about the $5 trillion, market cap here. We had this marked out for everybody a while back. We pushed up into that range and we've seen it quickly turn back around. We've seen this multiple times. Every time it hits like a historic number, you see it go up and we see it pull back. There's a lot of things going on with NVIDIA that you need to be, aware of, especially with like Google coming out with the new TPUs. There's a lot of things that can impact it. And I think that's the volatility of the entire AI industry. And I've been banging the drum for a little bit. And I think it's important to let people know that, that this is an ever evolving time. And we've seen multiple businesses. If you could go back and think about the PC and how businesses would flourish and then they pull back and then they, maybe they would recover or maybe they would file bankruptcy. I mean, NVIDIA's technology right now is the best, but it wouldn't take long with the technology advances and the AI advances for somebody to make a breakthrough. It's a volatile market, for sure. Okay. All right, 185 on the spot on the full complex. That's still remains call dominated. You can see this is a very much different look than you would see on the S&P. Still a tremendous amount of deep in the money calls being held here. If you're interested in probably seeing a good gauge, probably this 150 net delta here. That's probably where you want to watch it. This 150, even this 165, 164 area, that's pretty clear. That's a pretty clear area, but that 150 zone, 280,000 puts. This is people selling puts down here, puts down into 140. Look at the put open interest towards the call open interest. More than likely, people are selling cash secured puts into this zone. But you know, never here or there. Watch for these to start closing. Watch for this net delta to start shrinking to give you insight that maybe there's some weakness there. All right. Play for today. Clearly you can see that there is a much more put dominated gamma condition. It looks like we're going to be suppressed likely into that 185, 187 area. You can see the major shorts above this 195, 192. So wouldn't surprise me to see us run down into this range. So let's see. Puts us into that 195 range, 192 and a half. So I don't know if I have my old. I do not. So what we'll do here, just for the sake of this, is I will go old school. Okay, 192 and a half. We'll come here and we'll say your pivot point is 185, where we're opening. Okay, and the transition zone 187 and a half. Excuse me, 185, 187. Your transitional zone is probably 190. This is not something you really want to play here, in my opinion. If you're looking for anything, you're looking to short anything into that 190, 192 zone, and looking for it to reject off of this area and settle towards that 185 zone. Okay, settle towards it, not push underneath it, based on what we're seeing. But if you do see us push below 185, it's more than likely to really drive a price down. You might looking for some pivot points like this 177 and a half zone, but I highly doubt that based on what we're seeing here. I think we're going to find a bounce, maybe some type of extension of a just chop here, right? For a bear flag, whatever you want to call it, consolidation. Watch for some type of range stuck here, okay? I don't expect a bunch of movement any further down on NVIDIA, but if we do, that'll likely be what drives the S&P below that 6,700 key point, pivot point. Let's go to Tesla. Well, I still got old ones here that are playing, right? Tesla. Still a huge pull towards that 500 level. It looks like probably leans into like 3 weeks. That's probably a big chunk of that based on the options expiration here. You can see that, well, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. Let me blow this up just a little bit. 11.7, 11.21, and 116. These are biggest options expiration here. But let's take a look at this week here. You can see that we are in put dominated gamma conditions, floor at 435 and 445 being your ceiling here. So let's see, 435. Or 45. As far as the transitional area, nothing great here, y'all. You'd have to go, I mean, this area of weakness right here at 437.5. It's kind of unclear, right? So 437.5 in your negative gamma shelf is up here, and it's reversed here, where, well, let's just put it like this. You fall off below that, you're going to likely start selling off pretty heavily into that zone. It'll cause volatility. I think you'd be watching for this open down towards 420 if we do start breaking down below 435. Okay, transitional zone 442.5. It's that pivot point right here. Okay, and drive us up towards that 445 gamma wall. So what's that look like to everybody? Looks like some consolidation. Looks like we could make that, like I said, that spike below here will drive us here. And this would be some relative, trading range right here that you need to be aware of, right? So if we do break below here, don't be surprised to see some drive down towards this range, as that has been a range for us, okay? But as of right now, it's a pretty tight little area. If I had to guess, based on NVIDIA, based on Tesla, what we've seen, we're probably going to see some chop today. But if we do break below some of those key areas, I wouldn't be surprised to see us break down and really spike the volatility, okay? As of right now, we're sitting at 2057. This was my November pivot here at 1945, where we opened at, opened the month at, but where it closed, if you know VIX, whatever. And realistically, what you need to be watching, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. We're watching the VIX here, okay? We've seen both the November contract and December contract. When you start to see these kind of rise into this 21 and a half range, where these start to flatten out, this is where you need to be concerned, okay? Right now, it's been in contango. This is normal to have the curve up like this. But when you start to see it flatten, which virtually means when you start to see our VIX come into that 22 zone, that's when all hell breaks loose. So 2160 is kind of where I would be watching right now, that 2160 zone, which is going to be January's pivot right there for today. That is a big area, 2160. Keep that there. And that will be a big area, because if we do start to see this flatten, right, where we start to get in that 22 zone, into this month and next month, that is where you should be concerned. That is when we start to see the curve flatten out. And that is when generally we see 5-7% pullbacks after that flattens. Okay. All right. That's going to cover it for today. If you guys aren't following me, make sure you're following me on X. And if you guys are interested in seeing the trades we do, how we attack the market, use the links in the bio and get your 7-day, $7 trial. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, till next time. We'll catch you later.